Why are Tate galleries losing young EU visitors? Brexit, COVID art attendance explained. The Tate galleries in London are facing a significant challenge in attracting young visitors from Europe, a situation that has been exacerbated by the dual impacts of Brexit and the COVID-19 pandemic. Maria Balshaw, the director at Tate, has pointed to this demographic shift as a key factor behind the alarming drop in attendance numbers. According to Balshaw, the combination of leaving the European Union and the effects of the pandemic has deterred individuals aged 16 to 24 from visiting the two prominent Tate locations in the capital. Recent annual attendance statistics released by the Association of Leading Visitor Attractions, ALVA, revealed a staggering 27% decrease in visitors to Tate Modern and Tate Britain since 2019, translating to a loss of approximately 2.2 million visitors. When compared to other cultural institutions in London, Tate's attendance figures are particularly concerning. For instance, the National Portrait Gallery experienced only a 3% decline during the same time frame, while the British Museum saw a 4% drop. Balshaw emphasised that internal research indicates domestic visitor numbers have rebounded to 95% of pre-COVID levels. Yet international attendance lags significantly, at just 61%. The numbers tell a clear story, she remarked in an interview with the Art newspaper. In the 2019 to 20 period, Tate Modern attracted 609,000 visitors from Europe in the 16 to 24 age bracket, but this figure plummeted to 357,000 in 2023 to 24. She elaborated on the challenges faced by this age group, stating, "Consider the circumstances for these young individuals. They are deeply impacted by Brexit, which has altered their educational and employment prospects. And COVID has dramatically influenced the conclusion of their studies and their lifestyle choices. Generally, they are also travelling less than before." However, not everyone agrees with Balshaw's assessment. Some critics have pointed fingers at what they describe as woke curatorial decisions, suggesting that these choices may have contributed to the disappointing attendance figures. There are even voices calling for a re-evaluation of the institution's free entry policy, arguing that it might need to be reconsidered to boost visitor numbers. These attendance statistics were released shortly after Tate announced plans to reduce its workforce by 7% in response to a funding shortfall resulting from the pandemic. A spokesperson for Tate commented on this decision, stating, "These adjustments are necessary to ensure we maintain the stability required to continue our ambitious and innovative endeavours." Interestingly, while there are currently no specific strategies in place aimed at attracting young Europeans, Tate has recently introduced a series of late-night openings designed to appeal to younger audiences. This initiative could potentially help in revitalising interest among this demographic. Celebrating its 25th anniversary this year, Tate Modern welcomed over 76,000 visitors during its birthday weekend, an event that insiders hope may indicate a positive turnaround in attendance figures as we look ahead to 2025. But here's where it gets controversial. With the ongoing debates about curatorial choices and the future of free access to art, what do you think? Are the challenges facing Tate a result of external factors like Brexit and COVID, or do internal decisions play a more significant role? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Reframing the debate, Tate's resilience in the post-Brexit, post-COVID era. The Tate's visitor numbers are soaring, but the debate on what's driving them is far from settled. Tate Britain and Tate Modern have seen a steady rise in visitor numbers, with Tate Modern being the most visited modern art museum globally. In 2024, over 6 million people visited a Tate gallery. A recent report, Tate director blames Brexit and COVID for slump in visitors, 29 July, compares the latest attendance figures for Tate Modern and Tate Britain against the record-breaking year of 2019, which saw 700,000 more visitors than the previous year. However, A fairer comparison would be against the average annual attendances before the COVID pandemic. As highlighted in the article, UK visitor numbers to Tate's galleries have bounced back to 95% of pre-pandemic levels. Paid exhibitions at both Tate Modern and Tate Britain are also seeing pre-COVID attendance levels. The remaining gap is largely due to a decrease in international tourists visiting the free collections. Nevertheless, an additional 1 million people engaged with Tate works through exhibitions worldwide. While changes in European visitation demographics have played a role, our success with local audiences, such as the 76,000 visitors to Tate Modern's birthday weekend, 70% of whom were under 35, and our upcoming program featuring Pablo Picasso, JMW Turner, John Constable, and Tracy Emin, position us strongly for future growth. But here's where it gets controversial. Some argue that Tate's recent struggles are due to factors beyond Brexit and COVID. Since the early 2000s, it seems the Tate has struggled to captivate audiences with its exhibitions. Where are the groundbreaking shows like Cruel Tender that redefined photography? Or the boldness of the Mona Hatoum retrospective? The delight of Christian Marclay's The Clock, the immersive experience of Olafur Eliasson's The Weather Project, or the political impact of Ai Weiwei's Sunflower Seeds. Apart from the Lynette Yiadom Boaki portrait show at Tate Britain and the El Anatsui pieces in the Turbine Hall, recent contemporary art exhibitions have lacked the excitement of the Why Are Tate's Attendance Figures Dropping? Insights and Analysis. Tate has unveiled the primary factor contributing to its declining visitor numbers, and the implications are significant. In the 2019-20 period, Tate Modern attracted 609,000 visitors from Europe, aged 16 to 24, but this figure plummeted to just 357,000 in 2023 to 24, while domestic attendance has rebounded to approximately 95% of pre-COVID levels. International visitor numbers have stagnated at around 61%. Government data indicates that the number of EU visitors to the UK has decreased by 10% compared to 2019. The situation varies across other UK museums, with the British Museum's overseas visitor percentage nearing its 2019 figures. Since Tate announced a budget deficit for 2024 to 25, critics have pointed fingers at the museum's programming as a key reason for its financial struggles. They argue that the curatorial choices have led to a noticeable drop in visitor numbers over recent years, which in turn has affected revenue from ticketed exhibitions, food services, and gift shops, as the permanent collections remain free to the public. The art newspaper's annual report on visitor statistics, released in April, confirmed that attendance at Tate institutions in 2024 was significantly lower than in 2019, a year marked by record attendance. Specifically, Tate Modern experienced a 25% decline in visitors compared to pre-pandemic levels. Tate Britain saw a 32% drop, and Tate St Ives faced a staggering 37% decrease in attendance. Tate Liverpool is currently closed and will not reopen until 2027. The latest research from the Art newspaper, which integrates government statistics, university enrollment data, tourism figures, and surveys from the Arts Council and Art Fund, reveals that while Tate, like other national museums, emphasizes programming as a crucial factor in attracting visitors, external socioeconomic factors, both national and international, play an equally, if not more, significant role in shaping footfall. According to Tate's internal research, while domestic attendance is nearly back to pre-COVID levels, there has been a notable decline in international visitors, particularly among the 16 to 24 age group from Europe, which Tate identifies as a vital demographic for art museums. Interestingly, despite the drop in attendance, Tate Modern, which typically accounts for about 75% of the group's visitors, still ranks as the 5th most visited art museum globally, trailing behind the Louvre, the Vatican Museums, the British Museum, and New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art. Since 2014, it has fluctuated between the 3rd and 7th positions, except for 2021, when it fell to 16th due to pandemic-related closures. Tate Modern continues to hold the title of the world's leading modern and contemporary art museum, a position it has maintained since 2014. Aside from a brief period in 2021 when it was surpassed by the Centre Pompidou in Paris and the Museum of Modern Art in New York. However, the decline in visitor numbers cannot be overlooked. Liam Darban, Tate's Director of Audiences and Innovation, and his team have conducted in-depth analyses of demographic changes among the museum's visitors over the past decade, which align with broader trends in UK tourism. Darban's internal research, which includes exit surveys from all galleries and data sharing with a consortium of other UK museums, indicates that, excluding Tate Liverpool, the number of visitors from within the UK in 2024 was nearly equivalent to pre-pandemic figures. A spokesperson for Tate stated, "Tate's domestic visitor numbers have rebounded to about 95% of their pre-COVID level, while international visitor numbers are at approximately 61% of their pre-COVID level. In the 3 financial years leading up to the pandemic, 2017 to 18, 2018 to 19, 2019 to 20, the average total attendance at Tate Modern, Tate Britain and Tate St Ives was 7.4 million, with around 3.8 million of those visitors coming from the UK. In contrast, the average attendance for the 2 full post-COVID years, 2022 to 23 and 2023 to 24, dropped to 5.8 million, with approximately 3.6 million being UK-based visitors. Conversely, the number of international visitors fell sharply from about 3.6 million to roughly 2.2 million. Maria Balshaw, Tate's director, highlights the significant decline in young EU visitors, particularly those aged 16 to 24, as a critical finding. This age group represents a substantial portion of the museum's audience, making up 1 in 6 visitors to both Tate Modern and Tate Britain. "The statistics are telling," she remarks. Tate Modern alone attracted 609,000 visitors from Europe aged 16 to 24 in 2019 to 20. But this number dropped to 357,000 in 2023 to 24. Young people in this demographic are deeply impacted by the dual challenges of Brexit, which has altered their educational and employment prospects, and COVID, which has disrupted their studies and lifestyle choices. Generally, they are also travelling less. Supporting this observation, data from the Office of National Statistics reveals that the number of EU visitors remains stable at around 24 million annually, from 2015 to 2019. But by 2023, this figure had decreased to approximately 22 million. While this still represents a considerable number, the composition of these tourism statistics has changed. Ross Bennett-Cook, a travel and tourism expert at the University of Westminster, notes, "Young people are feeling the brunt of the cost of living crisis more acutely than older generations. Gen Z and millennials are the demographics most affected when it comes to travel." Additionally, research from the universities of Bath and Antwerp indicates a decline of 48% to 64% in EU students enrolling in UK universities. The Migration Observatory at the University of Oxford has reported a nearly 70% drop in net EU migration to the UK since 2016, with more EU citizens leaving the UK than arriving. This trend results in fewer EU residents in the UK, whether students or otherwise, for their friends and family from Europe to visit. During its recent birthday weekender, Tate Modern welcomed 76,000 visitors over 3 days, with 70% of them being under 35. This is double what we would typically expect for such an event. Our Tate Collective membership, aimed at those under 25, has now reached 180,000 active members. We are thrilled that our galleries are successfully attracting younger visitors from the UK. If they enjoy their experience at 24 or 25, they are likely to return when they are 55 or 70. However, we are not seeing the same influx from European countries, as they are simply not in London as frequently. Darban also emphasises a significant decline in visitors from Northeast Asia, which aligns with UK tourism data showing slower growth compared to visitors from North America, Australia, and Saudi Arabia. Darban observes that the 16 to 25 and 16 to 35 age groups are where the shift in visitation is moving away from traditional museums towards art galleries. He believes that young adults are a more crucial demographic for art galleries than for conventional museums, making the loss of young EU visitors particularly impactful. However, the situation on the ground is less clear. India Divers, the policy and ethics lead at the Museums Association, points out that post-COVID visitor statistics for UK museums present a mixed picture. She references recent data from the Association of Leading Visitor Attractions, ALVA, which indicates that institutions such as the Natural History Museum, the National Portrait Gallery, the Museum of Liverpool, the Ulster Museum in Belfast, the Pitt Rivers Museum in Oxford, the Fitzwilliam Museum in Cambridge, and the National Museum of Scotland have all experienced notable growth in visitor numbers in 2024. A representative from the British Museum, which ranks third globally, stated, "Our latest research indicates that international visitors constituted 64% of our audience, which is close to pre-pandemic levels when international visitors made up 70% of our audience." Domestic visits continue to grow in real terms, and these figures show that visits to London have surpassed pre-pandemic numbers. Conversely, institutions like the Manchester Museum, the Royal Academy of Arts, Liverpool's Maritime Museum, National Museum Cardiff, and Scotland's Gallery of Modern Art have had disappointing years. The Science Museum, which saw a 4% decline in visitor numbers compared to 2023, has yet to see international visitors return to pre-pandemic levels. A museum spokesperson noted, in 2024 to 25, about a third of all visits were made by international visitors, compared to an average of 46% pre-pandemic. The decrease in international visitors has been somewhat balanced by an increase in UK-based visitors. In a survey conducted by Art Fund, which included responses from 324 museum directors, 57% reported an increase in overall visitor numbers compared to the previous year, but only 25% noted a specific rise in international visitor numbers. The socioeconomic factors at play are significant. According to the Arts Council England's annual museum survey, published in March, the average change in visitor numbers across museums is a decline of 10%, with 3 out of 10 museums reporting a drop of more than 25% compared to 5 years ago. In Scotland, the Museums Gallery Scotland's 2024 survey noted that visits to Scottish museums in 2023-24 exceeded those in 2019-20, with 21% of visitors being local, 36% national, and 42% international. All stakeholders agree that programming is essential for attracting audiences. Darban asserts that Tate anticipates continued growth, particularly among the audiences discussed today, due to the appeal of its programming. The British Museum spokesperson emphasises that the visitor perspective is central to the master plan launched in 2024. The Science Museum spokesperson adds that their public is drawn in by thought-provoking exhibitions, new free galleries, and engaging experiences. However, Tate's research indicates that visitor numbers are influenced as much, if not more, by external socio-economic factors, both nationally and internationally. Moreover, in UK museums and galleries, where collections are freely accessible, visitor numbers and other revenue-generating strategies devised by museum directors can only yield limited financial returns. The survival of cultural institutions relies on more than just visitor numbers, as highlighted by the alarm raised by the UK government's recent spending review. Cultural organisations are once again facing pay reviews and workforce reductions amid real-term cuts to government funding over the next 4 years. The Public Accounts Committee has reportedly warned the Treasury that over 50% of local councils in England are at risk of insolvency, which does not bode well for local government funding for arts and culture, nor for the museums and galleries that depend on it.